Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hired to Lead, a podcast brought to you by Zeren, part of Renovata. I'm Kim Wardle, Director of Design and Innovation Search. We go deeper than the headline role. We explore the journey behind the leader, the moments that shaped them, and the decisions that cost them, and the turning points that changed everything. At Zeren, we believe the best insights come from the people living it, real conversations with world-class leaders, and what it actually looks like to lead at the highest level. There's a rare kind of leader who sits at the intersection of product and design, someone who has to think like a builder and feel like a creator all at once. Today's guest is one of them. I'm delighted to be joined by Arin LoPrete, VP of Product Management, Design and Research at Unqork, the enterprise no-code platform helping some of the world's largest organizations build complex software without writing a single line of code. A company that is fundamentally changing how enterprises think about building technology. Hi, Arin.
Hey, Kim. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the kind introduction.
No worries. Arin, I can't believe we're finally making this happen. And it's so brilliant to have you here. We've known each other a few years, and I've always appreciated our conversations, as you always have such a great perspective. But today, I get to go much deeper, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you for joining me. So, Arin, you're VP of Product Management, Design and Research at Unqork. But let's rewind, because I know you started your career in traditional advertising and print in the 90s, way before digital product designer was even a job title. But tell us about that origin story. Why so early, and how did that foundation shape everything that came after? Go for it.
My gray hair shows how long ago that origin story was, right? But for what it's worth, my origin story actually goes back to before my career even began, right? I was the creative kid in school who always had a pencil in his hand, right? You know, at my house, there wasn't a piece of paper, school notebook, honestly, any surface, unfortunately, that wasn't covered in doodles or sketches. My mother was a copywriter. My father worked in packaging, mostly at Estee Lauder throughout his career. And so, you know, I was fortunate to grow up believing that you could make a living as a creative. And I was big into comic books and figured I'd try to make it as an illustrator. Why not? I was always drawing anyway. And so my hopes ultimately were that someday I'd work for Marvel or DC Comics. But there was like a take your kid to work day in high school that pretty much changed everything for me. And that sort of got me off on my trajectory. My mother brought me into DMB&B where she worked, which is a large New York ad agency. And I met the art director she was partnered with. And here's this guy in a huge office, and he's got toys everywhere and posters on the walls, and he's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And he's a successful, professional, creative, and problem solver, right? And that was the moment I realized I didn't have to risk being a starving artist. I could make a career solving problems creatively every single day, right? So amazing. And from that point on, I was truly locked in. I took a summer course at Parsons School of Design here in New York between my junior and senior years of high school. And developed a portfolio that ultimately got me accepted into the School of Visual Arts, where Richard Wild's visual literacy class had a truly profound impact on me, and came out basically dreaming of working at Wieden & Kennedy to work on the Nike account, because to me, that was the ultimate in creative.
Yeah.
And I started in advertising and print when everything was still mostly analog, right? But at that kind of intersection where digital was starting to come along, and I was there for that transition into digital. You know, on the job, learning PageMaker, Photoshop, freehand, you know, the old school programs, Quark Express eventually. And around that same time, you know, starting to really discover the design world, you know, David Carson's work on Ray Gun and Bikini Magazine. I was reading Interview Magazine and marveling at the oversized graphics, Designers Republic, and the creative coming out of the European club scene. It all completely blew my mind. Right. It made me think visually in a way I'd never thought before. Right. And it made me question whether advertising was really where I belong, because what I was really drawn to was the design side, the problem solving, not the selling. Right. So this restlessness ultimately pulled me out of advertising. Right. I tried a few things, you know, held a few roles. I attempted to launch a magazine with a partner, you know, and that failed spectacularly, as they often do. mostly back then because printing was really expensive. And as a fledgling publication, ultimately we struggled to secure advertisers to cover any printing costs or anything more than sort of our vision. But every move during that time kind of kept pushing me closer to product and further from pure marketing. And I guess about the fall of 2000, a dear friend of mine, someone who would actually go on to become a future colleague and client and ultimately a manager. I've been designing DJ postcards and stickers for him, and he asked me to join where he was an engineer, pioneering IoT startup named Zanbu. Right. And Zanbu had an early IP-based residential home automation and control platform, which connected cameras, sensors, and other smart devices in people's homes. And this was the first time I had to think holistically about an end-to-end user experience with real complexity, right? And actually think about how do we make it simple for end users? And again, earlier days of the internet on top of it all. But that's really the moment, I think, where the trajectory that I'm still on really began.
You have literally seen it all.
That I have.
Yes. And you've led design across IoT, telecoms, media, fintech, Web3, and now no-code SaaS. An incredibly industry agnostic career, Arin. And when you step into a completely new sector, what's the core leadership philosophy you rely on?
Yeah. So it's interesting. As you said, right? Industry has never been a hard variable for me. And I mentioned how restless I am. I want to create and I don't see barriers to creating no matter what it is that the end product might be. Right. So question I've always asked, no matter what sector I'm in is, do I deeply understand the person on the other side of what I'm building? And do I have a team that can act on that understanding? Right. My approach, I guess, when entering a new space is to go wide and fast through discovery, always partner ruthlessly across functions and build with real customer input, right? Not assumptions. Genuinely strong, curious, human-centered design teams get fluent in a new domain much faster than people expect. And I know that's hard for some people to accept, but I've seen it time and again. I believe mostly the methods transfer even when the domain doesn't. Right. But there's the part I always want to be honest about. A lot of my career, I've been that design leader fighting for the design seat at the table. And at some point I realized that, that fight was partly on us as creatives, right? We're always advocating hard for users while treating business goals, as obstacles maybe. But the real shift was accepting that the balancing act is actually the job, right? User needs, business goals, technical reality. Design earns its seat by being fluent actually in all three, right? Not just the creative output. And none of that works if your team doesn't feel safe enough to take risks and challenges themselves. My job as a leader isn't to be a hero. It's to create the conditions where other people can be. And that means, I guess, advocating fiercely for my team, creating real space for experimentation, and leading with emotional intelligence, right? Especially through the hard moments. And as you know, in our industry, there are more than enough of those. So when designers know their ideas have value and that someone has their back, it genuinely shows up in their work. So I think, guess to answer your question in a nutshell, whatever the industry, I need to be curious enough to learn it fast, close enough to know our users to know what matters, and grounded enough in business to make the case for the right calls.
Yeah. And looking back, what was a mistake or pivot that terrified you that ultimately made you a better VP today?
I've made plenty of mistakes over my career, Kim.
No.
But I can't see that many of them have necessarily terrified me, right? As I've used most of them as learning moments, right? And certainly more so as I've matured as a designer and a leader. But I guess to answer your question, maybe a pivot that genuinely freaked me out was my leaving sort of the product world to take a leadership role at Capco. And Capco is a global management consultancy. I'd spent 15 years in startup and IoT, like at Zanbu and at AT&T after they acquired us, and had a sandwich an incredible year at NBC Universal, ideating on the future of streaming products. But ultimately, I came in to Capco to lead the digital design organization there, and it was it was different from where I'd come from. It was comprised of a large cross-disciplinary group of product designers, UI designers, information architects, UX researchers, product managers, and motion designers. And the job wasn't just to lead the function and further the careers of the team. It was to get out there and pitch and to sell and then deliver complex fintech solutions for large banks, like financial services institutions and insurance companies, like on minute timelines, right? With very scrappy teams and often with millions of dollars on the line, right? And that terrified me. I could sell design, right? I've been doing that my whole career, but selling a promise of design, being personally on the hook for my team and my company to deliver exactly what I'd committed to, right? The timelines that I presented, right? That was new. And these weren't products where I had months to think through. We were the agency responsible for delivering them as rapidly as possible, full stop, right? And what I discovered was that it worked, right? Because I'd built a talented team and a strong culture. We had Capco Digital's 2 strongest years in its history during that stretch. I'm very proud of this, right? And it changed me as a leader, gave me the confidence that I could grow a team, grow an organization, and most importantly, I think shape a culture, and all the while delivering complex work under real pressure, right? Not just for my own business, but for my customers as well. And that's the general foundation I operate on today.
Let's shift to today, your leadership at Unqork, because you're building a next-gen AI-first platform. You're getting a front-row seat to the future of software, which is so exciting. How has AI changed the day-to-day reality of design and product at Unqork? Like, what's the actual process, not just the tools?
It's a great question and obviously very relevant right now. I guess the short answer is, and the honest answer is, we're still figuring it out, right? But on a positive note, we've hit a real groove since the beginning of this year, right? And let me start by saying, and not to sound, like I'm, kissing the rear ends of my leadership, but I am genuinely fortunate to work for an organization that's been all in on leveraging AI. My boss, our CTO and chief AI officer, is Dave Ferrucci, right? Dave founded IBM Watson, right? Having someone of that caliber, someone who's like a true godfather in the AI space, leading our product development organization and encouraging, enabling, and educating the team on how to fully leverage AI has made an enormous difference in how fast we've moved, right? Last year, we were using AI across the organization, like, Gemini for ideation and building decks and some rapid research and synthesis and discovery and, and again, synthesizing interview content. But it was really the turn of this year where things accelerated across product development, right? Our product management team started using AI to generate documentation. My lead PM actually built tooling that connects that documentation to the product as it's being developed. Incredible, right? Documentation generated while the product being built was something that, just in terms of our overall process, it didn't seem feasible just a few months before. Our UX research team also started leveraging it, and we're able to get 80% of the synthesis quality in an afternoon that used to take a full week, right? And that's not replacing researchers, right? That's giving the expert back their time to focus on insight and decision-making. All the while, our engineering team started leveraging Claude Code to rapidly iterate on future vision for the platform, right? Design came in a little bit after that, right? And honestly, I think that's why I said we're still figuring out. That's where we hit our first real friction, right? In a true kind of role reversal, engineering was moving faster than design could keep pace with. But we worked through it as a team, and we established new ways of working. And what we've landed on has been genuinely exciting. The way I think about it, Claude's not where I finish work or my team finishes work. It's where we start thinking faster, right? But designers now have their own branches of the product we're building, so they can prototype and iterate independently. But at the same time, the real unlock has been kind of the pair programming that's come after that. We run cross-functional workshops. We sketch ideas in FigJam, rough concepts, early IA, and then designers sit directly with our engineers, right? Who are already highly skilled at Claude Code, and build together live flows, screens, interactions, all iterating in real time. Like, you can feel it. It's amazing. It harkens back to the way I used to work in my early startup days, right? Sitting next to an engineer, bringing a design, refining it together until we had something strong enough to ship. Except now, uh, the loop that used to take, weeks or months now takes days or hours. And we're working at a speed we've never seen at Unqork and just scratching the surface and all at the right time, right? We're developing our next generation experience and to see it coming to life at the speed and with the collaboration we're seeing is everything I've worked towards to get to this point.
And your role obviously combines design and product leadership. How much of a shift is driven by AI blurring the boundaries between the two disciplines? Because I'm seeing that a lot more. And do you see titles blurring or disappearing in the next 5 years?
Okay, bunch of good questions in there. Okay, let's see. I'll start by being honest here. My combined role isn't really driven by AI. It's the result of a much longer evolution. Something I guess I touched on in a bit my origin story, but going all the way back to my Zambu and AT&T days, before product management was a true discipline in these organizations, I was already playing, an integral role in defining product strategy as a designer, right, and as a design leader. At AT&T, I actually made the business case to the president of our organization to stand up a product management function. I felt we needed deeply technical PMs to help orchestrate development alongside the discovery work UX was already doing. And that thread carried through then for me through Capco and Candy Digital, right, as I moved on through my career. By the time I got to Trive, my last organization, and Unqork, leading both product and design had become a clear goal. Right. And so I think the reason at the heart of it is that to be a great design leader, you have to not just advocate for users, but you need to fully understand the business goals. Right. And I found that too often designers, myself included, for far too long, were focused on beautiful design and great user outcomes, but disconnected from the core needs of the business. Right. But having product management under me gave me the business acumen to finally have that proverbial seat at the table in a real way to bring these things together. Now, I guess I'll be honest, this hasn't been without tension for me, right? I'm a genuine believer in balance across the product stool, right? Design with user needs and product with their business goals and engineering with the technical feasibility. And the fact that two of these three legs have, sat under me in my organizations is something I've had to grapple with, right? I've had to consciously check myself. Am I wearing my user-centered design or my business hat right now, right? The balancing act is truly constant and always top of mind. And my goal is always to make sure that, one leg of that stool is never longer than the other. And so, again, going back to ruthlessly partnering and collaborating, that's what it all comes down to. Whether titles fully blur or disappear in 5 years, I think a few things are becoming a little bit clearer day in and day out, right? UX research has never been more important, and I'll rest my hat on that, right? While the role will evolve, that discipline survives and grows in an AI-enabled world. Product management, that's going to keep evolving too. Just writing requirements and orchestrating delivery is not a full-time job anymore, right? AI is compressing that work significantly and honestly for the better. What will matter though is deep technical knowledge and expertise and the ability to bridge that across an organization. And that's harder, more strategic version of the role, but where ultimately I see it going. I do, and I mentioned before, my mother was a copywriter. I do see content design and UX writing, those roles getting absorbed though, right? AI is moving aggressively into that space. Designers, product managers, business leaders, marketers are writing copy that had been, and iterating with it with AI in a role that had been independent for so long. And honestly, I guess in the end, the purely UX roles that were all the rage, for the last decade, design thinking, user journeys, flows as a standalone skill set, designers are going to need to broaden, right? Like bringing real UI craft alongside UX thinking, strong visual and brand sensibility. Those skills are going to matter more, like not less, right? And I think the era of specializing in one slice of the design process is most certainly narrowing. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the next few years. And you say 5 years, it's a lifetime in the world of it.
And because I'm seeing so much of it now, design engineering and people even calling it builders. So I'm already seeing it. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years, Aaron, to be honest.
I saw something similar back in, back in the early aughts, right? When Flash was a tool in many designers' toolkits, and there was this, and right before sort of the, and I guess somewhat after the dot-com bust, through the boom, there was the, Flash is a pretty amazing tool, and the drums were being beat, the design was dead. If you couldn't animate in Flash and ultimately couldn't code, you ultimately weren't going to have a job as the internet continued to evolve. That was overblown, to say the least. And I feel like we are hearing so much of the same narrative today. The reality is designers should understand, certainly, how code is generated, how to code ideally. And that design, to your point, that design engineering skill set is more and more valuable, but it doesn't mean the death of design. No, I don't think so.
Thank goodness. Now, you had a big event yesterday, UnqorkAI 2026, where you revealed a next-gen AI-first platform. And now that the secret is out, can you share the news with our audience on what you and your team are building?
I'm so excited about this. And this is a culmination of so many months of work with so many people across my organization. And, we're not there yet. We're not at the finish line, but it's great to finally have it out there, what we're working on. So, what we unveiled at Create is UnqorkAI, right? And the simplest way I can describe that is we're building a next generation AI first platform to enable the delivery of enterprise grade software across the full application development lifecycle, from planning to building to testing to deploying and maintaining that software. And I believe that the reason that matters right now is that anyone can build really fast with AI today, right? It's not a differentiator anymore. It's pretty much table stakes. But what that speed is producing, especially in large enterprise, is genuinely a real problem. Every AI generated application becomes its own sprawling, custom coded artifact, redundant, inconsistent, hard to secure, hard to maintain. Right. So the speed of creating is real, but so is the chaos that it leaves behind, right? So Unqork's customers actually, what they need isn't just speed to build, it's confidence in everything that happens during and after you build, right? How do you get that application to production? How do you integrate it into your ecosystem? How do you secure it, govern it, maintain it over its life cycle without drowning in technical debt? That's the problem that, our founder and as CEO, Gary Hoberman, founded Unqork to solve long before the AI era, right? And in the AI era, I think it's become even more urgent. So what we've been building is a platform where AI works within a governed architecture, right? It's not generating sprawling, unvetted code, but assembling applications from secure, reusable, smart components that the platform manages across their entire lifecycle. The experience for the creator then is still that natural language, AI first interaction. You can describe what you need. Users describe their intent or upload a requirements document, even share images of a legacy system, but under the hood, everything stays governed and secure and maintainable. And that's the unlock. Our customers get to focus on the exciting part, building the next thing, because the platform handles the complexity behind it every step of the way. And so more to come on this. We're looking to launch to general availability over the summer, and are absolutely thrilled at where we are today, and so excited to have revealed this to customers and partners and others just yesterday.
And what would you say has been the most exciting design challenge in bringing it to life?
It's a good question. There have been many, right? But I'll say maybe the most exciting design challenge has been kind of the meta one, right? We're developing an AI first product while simultaneously adopting AI tooling and ways of working ourselves, right? We're building the thing with the thing in real time. And what's been thrilling is kind of watching it click. I mentioned a little bit of that before, but not just at an individual level or discipline level, but cross-functionally. Seeing a team come together and start iterating at a speed and with a level of excitement that I think I've experienced before, right? My research My research and UX lead, Ellie, often talks about that moment in design where everything clicks and you get the tingles, you get the feels, right? Like, something's happening. Everything's vibrating, your spidey senses are firing, right? I feel like that's happening now at a group level. Designers, engineers, product managers, product marketing, our go-to-market team, we're true partners in a way that I've never seen an organization partner before. Everyone's bringing their ideas, their talents, and the ability to put work in front of people at a speed we simply couldn't before. We're all feeling those tingles, right? I think that maybe the other piece, like I mentioned, is, that's special here is how we built it, right? We started on this journey in earnest this past September. Which again, when I think across the course of my career, to think about where we've come in just 8 months time is mind blowing, right? We delivered an early alpha to customers just 2 months later, and we followed with a beta with expanded functionality and early look at our smart components just a couple of months ago now. And all of this with the explicit goal of getting real partner and customer feedback as we build towards our GA release this summer, right? Every step has been informed by the people who will actually use it, right? This is my dream as a design leader, right? And we're finally achieving it. And when you build that way, right, the outcomes feel like they were made for your customers. That's why it's my dream, because they were part of the process from step one. See an organization fully embrace that kind of customer-centric approach has been incredibly rewarding and honestly very differentiated from any number of roles I've had throughout my career.
And would you say this is the best piece of work you've ever done, Arin?
I've worked on a lot of interesting things in my life. It's hard to say one is the most interesting or best, but it's certainly up there. And again, I think a big part of that though is because what I just said. I think it's at such a transformative time in our space, and it's a transformative product. So bringing that all together, it's wild. It's certainly different, Kim. But we're feeling it clearly. As you can see, I'm getting excited about it. We're feeling it, and again, the work is absolutely incredible. It really is. And kudos, while I've got this, like kudos to the entire team working on this. It really is a passionate group of engineers and product designers and product managers and researchers. I can't wait for the world to see the final product.
I'm excited. And Arin, you've watched this industry evolve from print, packaging, web to Web3, and now AI-enabled workplace. You've seen it all. What's your message to your team, to designers, and to leaders who do and don't advocate for design on why human designers still matter?
I love that question. I think human design roles have never been more important. And I mean that sincerely, not defensively. An important note, I think, today, right? AI doesn't have a skilled designer's level of taste. And more importantly, it's incapable of empathy, right? It can't sit with a user's frustration. It can't notice the hesitation before a click or sense when something almost works, but doesn't feel quite right, right? That is still ours, and it always will be, right? I truly believe that. What AI can do, though, is compress the distance between an idea and a working prototype. And in doing that, I think that it gives us something on our side of the house that we've never really had enough of, and something we fought so much for, which is time, right? Time we can now reinvest in the humans on the other side of the screen, the people whose lives we're actually trying to make a little easier, a little clearer, and a little better. So I guess my message is this: AI is not a threat to what designers do. It's an invitation to do it more fully. Spend less time in iteration and handoff limbo, and more time with the people you're building for, listening, observing, and understanding them more deeply than we've ever had the bandwidth to do.
I love that. And actually, that leads nicely on to my next question for you. What's the one bit of advice you would give to designers starting out in their journeys today?
The one bit of advice I would give is to remain ever curious and, again, connected back through to your customers. Be a problem solver out of the gate. The tools matter, but in the end, what really matters is leveraging those tools to help you deliver amazing software, amazing creative, and grow your craft. I'm fortunate enough to come from a world where I moved from analog to digital. I came from a pre-internet world and moved into an internet-enabled world. I moved into the Web3 space, and here it is, we're moving into an AI world. My approach hasn't changed to basically fully adopting the new tooling, being all in and trying to understand how it can help me create and my teams create. And my advice really is for designers to take that same path. Don't be afraid of the new technology. Embrace it. Put it into your palette and your toolkit, and continue to grow and challenge the norm. Right. Focus on creating amazing outcomes, with one foot, always in, in the piece of business needs, like I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, again, remain curious, keep iterating, keep pushing. There's a lot of amazing design still to come in this world.
Love it. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of fun now with our rapid fire question round.
Okay.
And I want you to say the first thing that comes into your mind. Here we go.
Okay.
Startup, agility, or enterprise scale?
I'll say startup today, but maybe ask me again in 2 years. I've been through cycles in the startup and enterprise world, but having jumped back into sort of the fast-paced, often chaotic and ambiguous world of startups after some time in big enterprise, it's hard to say anything else right now, right? Like I love it. I get the tingles from it, right? But honestly, I think AI is closing that gap. So it's becoming less of an either or. I think that, that agility should find its way into larger enterprise more and more in the coming months and years.
A design tool you use now and couldn't live without?
It's funny. I'm sitting here the entire time holding a pen, right? And I'll say genuinely a Pentel fine tip pen, this very specific one, in a Moleskine notebook. I know that's probably not the answer maybe your audience is expecting, but the reality is I'm still a lot like my younger self, with a lot more gray hair. But I'm sketching and taking notes every single day and walk around with these things and from meeting to meeting, sit there at night and constantly think through sort of what can I, how might I solve this problem? The amazing thing is now I can take those sketches and those notes and feed them into AI tools and kickstart digital iteration in a way, obviously, I was never able to before. So the analog habit actually got more valuable, not less.
There's a lot to be said for pen and paper, hey? That's where all the taste comes from. And, that's how people work on their craft. I think without it, I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Though I don't sit and sketch like I used to in subways, or museums. I spent much of my life just always drawing and drawing. Now it's really thinking through flows and layouts in my notebooks.
Yeah. I'd like to see some of those early sketches you've done, actually. A design tool you secretly miss from the early days. Although I think you maybe just answered that already.
But I'm still using those, right? So there are quite a few. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. I guess if I had to pick one, maybe I'll say OmniGraffle. I don't know if you know OmniGraffle, but I used it constantly in my IoT days for information architecture and flow work. It's a diagramming tool, right? The snap behavior, the stencils, and the fidelity of the diagrams, totally unmatched, right? And today a Miro or a FigJam, right, might be faster to collaborate in and have some of the same tooling, but OmniGraffle was it was sharper to think in, to work in than any of the tools today.
Okay. Most surreal moment of your career so far?
Oh my God. Hands down, prototyping on site in Cupertino for the Apple Watch pre-launch. And then having myself and an engineer, having us make it to the finale and attend the launch event. Afterwards, getting to meet Johnny Ive there, absolutely mind blowing. Everything about it, it opened things in my creative mind that I never knew could be opened, and it's still feather in my cap all these years later.
Incredible. Number one thing you look for in a design hire today?
I've been saying this for a while. Not much has changed in the AI era, right? Low ego, high curiosity, right? You can teach tools and process, but you can't teach someone to care more about the outcomes than being right.
I love it. And what does success look like for you right now?
So I guess for me, it's really continuing to solve problems at the cutting edge of design and technology, and taking everything I've learned, everything I've been exposed to, subjected to, beaten into me, and using it to help guide the next generation of creative problem solvers. I mentor outside of my day job as well. I really believe in the future of this craft, and want to give back as much as possible to help grow that next generation of talent. Right. And I guess also, I wasn't sure if you meant that on a personal or professional note, but on a personal side, success is also watching my kids grow into caring, responsible people. My daughter just finished her freshman year in college. My son's just a couple of years behind in high school. Honestly, that matters to me about as much as any of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Arin. From print and advertising in the 90s to leading product and design at the frontier of an AI-first enterprise software, your career has been built on relentless curiosity and never staying comfortable, which I've got to say is a huge skill in these ever-changing times. I love your energy, Arin. It's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you. And for anyone who's listening, who is building complex enterprise applications, keep a close eye on what Unqork are doing. You're going to want to see it. This launch looks set to redefine what no code can do in an AI-first world. All the links are in the show notes. Don't miss it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. It was really great to be here. Great conversation.